Vanakkam, Tamil Karthukalam is 16th March 2015 today. We're going to discuss about today is understanding the new emerging strategic development in Southeast Asia. Especially we're going to discuss about the Modi visit to Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Welcome Ravi.
Thank you.
And let's talk about the Modi's visit. Why is important? And he visited to Jaffna.
First thing, let's talk about the idea of Modi's visit. We remember we had a situation where Cameron went to Jaffna. That was only about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of Tamil people joined Conservative Party thinking that he's going to be our savior. Now probably people will join BJP, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point is, Modi's visit is a kind of demarking what we were started talking about, the global strategy. What Modi's visit is doing is in a way undoing what Cameron did. So now at the same time you will notice before Modi's visit, the Sri Lankan president visits the UK.
Yeah.
So it is obviously some kind of messages sent. You know, he's saying perhaps, look mate, you know, you came there and we have decided, you know, our affairs are very much wrapped up in India. Thank you for doing everything, but you know, we'll keep you in the loop, but India is now the mainstay. Our main partner. Yeah. And we will listen to their diktat more than our business. You know. So in that sense, India has, in a global sense, is asserting its regional properties. That is what has happened. So going to Jaffna, it's not about Tamil people really, because you would have noticed the people who received him initially are the military commanders.
Who is the chief?
Chief. But legally, I suppose constitutionally, the governor is apparently happened to be a military commander, so he receives him. That's fine. But then the chief minister's meeting doesn't seem to play a big role there. So in a political sense, Chief Minister had nothing to say apart from handing out a few houses, which started a process a long time ago. Yeah. And they are reenacting some show just to give some plaques of people, you know, the framed plaques saying this is your house. But the people are already living in the houses. We know that. So there's something like 79 houses were involved actually on that day. So most of these houses have been built a while ago and they have been built. But that is a good process anyway. India has been putting a lot of them. But the interesting thing is, they are also giving $1.5 billion loan on rupiah loan.
Rupiah loan to Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. In other words, it doesn't endure any exchange rate through dollar. So Sri Lanka is gaining twice. One is the guarantee of rupiah exchange value. Yeah. Second is non-conversion of dollar value. So it is beneficial. Double beneficial in that sense.
That's the trend in the world right now, isn't it? So many other
to avoid dollar.
Yeah, avoid the dollar. Even China provides so much.
Yeah, China wants to get rid of our dollar. Yeah. That is what the whole point is. I mean, people, we know, we discussed this before, and the whole war in Iraq is supposed to be about dollar.
Because of bypassing the dollar.
Yeah, petrodollar, and Saddam Hussein wanting to become euro-based economy. So these are a big argument, we can go into it. So the Modi's visit, in that sense, it's an important Indian thing.
Indian
regional strategical part of it. So Modi himself didn't do this. In fact, I know people have talked to me, I mean, all these people who are writing for Strategic Institute, whenever they actually met them or talked to them, they have mentioned this million times that India was really, really angry. The show Cameron put in Jaffna a while ago. Yeah, because they felt it is like somebody else harvesting somebody else's land. Okay, so this is something they want to put it right. I think they have put it right in that sense. Now for the Tamils, what is he saying? He spoke in Hindi, I think in Jaffna, half the people, I don't think anybody understood it. Parliament. English in Parliament, so I don't know what it meant. So I suppose because we are Indian, he's talking in his language. Because Sinhalese are not Indians, he's talking in English. That's how we want to interpret it, I suppose. And why, you know, Tamil people like to interpret everything in a positive way, I suppose, because we want to believe something good is going to happen. But I don't see this.
But his, if you see it, his videos or the television series, how he is behaving with the Buddhists and the Buddhist side is more positive to Sri Lanka.
Oh yes, I mean his attitude is saying, well, like Ranil has said it, even though he made that remark about shooting the Indian fishermen, but he did come out and say Modi's visit has been very positive. That Sinhalese people understood Modi better. The India better because of his visit. That means Modi has been very appealing to Sri Lankan Sinhalese people as well. It's a positive thing from one point of view. On the as long as it is not at the expense of the minorities or Tamil communities.
Because previously Sri Lankan Sinhalese people, they had a fear on India for a long time, isn't it? Because of the India will support us because of Hindus and that and this in the Tamil side. But it's getting clear now, isn't it?
Absolutely clear about that one because Ranil has said it, Mahinda has said it now, and even Gotabaya is apparently saying it. They are saying India's help was a critical thing for them to beat tigers.
What are the importance that Modi's visit in the region, Indian region, to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, to Mauritius, or in the region? How is important?
This is an interesting thing because you see Modi's strategic point of view. We have already discussed this. It looks like he's aligning in the India with American interest in that area as a whole. But then it looks like he wants to define a small space for India itself.
In the region.
Indian regional sense. Now how that is going to pan out, I'm not sure because you see, what Americans want is what is happening in Burma. You know, I have been saying all the time, Burmese and Chinese are not friends, and people were saying China is virtually running Burma and there's a naval base and everything, which all turned out to be lies. So in other words, it was a propaganda a lot of our people swallowed. We know India and America are behind that kind of propaganda. They didn't have any so-called naval base, Chinese naval base or anything like that. It's just that even Hampatote argument is always hyped up so that people are to polarize the population. That's what they do all the time. So this one now is proven that is not the case. So what is happening in Sri Lanka and Maldives, they probably matters to India more than what is happening in the north at the moment, because in a way it is out of control for them. If you look at it, these ones they can bring it under control. So the Maldives, they are putting a lot of pressure bit by bit so that they come back into Indian orbit. And Sri Lanka, it looks like at the moment they have brought into their orbit. So if they underpin it with the economical program so that the Sri Lankan rupiah has to shadow the Indian rupee rather than any other currency, then if they can assure, remember, I don't know whether I told you that before, you know, what is India is offering for Sri Lanka to feel entitled to the economy, Indian economy. It's no point simply saying export us more and we import us. That is not what we want. We want rupee guarantee. Last year and the year before, Mahinda's government spent $700 million defending the rupee. Now, if they shadow the rupee, they don't have to do that. So they're saving already. So, but for that, then you are becoming more of a state of India.
Okay, after Modi come to India, come to India as a Prime Minister, the regional is bit of changes happening. This is after Modi comes, or India originally had planned?
I think this program is already on. Modi is happened to be there to supervise the transition. It's just like, it's like Labour Party started the Olympic program here, but the Cameron presided the event. It's like that. So it's not really Modi's program. In some sense, Mahinda in a silly way saying reorganize his departure is correct. It is a program which they already had, and the program was working with the international complicity behind it. Everybody supported it. So they want a regime change. This is a modern word nowadays, a regime change. So they brought a regime change. Regime change doesn't mean the actual policy change. Regime change is a modern way of saying
the favor to
faces,
change the
faces.
Favor to them.
Favor to them, and you only made the changes. If you look at the army, or if you look at the structure of Sri Lanka, nothing has changed. All the talks about the 100 days we will change the constitution, that's it. It all disappeared. The new discussion on the constitution about presidential power, parliamentary power is confusing like anything.
Okay, Modi's visit to Sri Lanka, went to Jaffna and the north, and what happened to our Tamils rights matter? We are talking about 13 plus. We are talking about 13th Amendment implementation, and people discussing about Indo-Sri Lankan Act. to bring them back. So what in this within these strategic ideas, what going to happen to our northeastern Tamil problem?
The argument is, the winning argument at the moment is, even Marxists, as Marxists we sometimes say this, JVP did that. If we had an economical program, if we approached every community, you don't need separate state, you don't need all kind of equality rights and so on and so forth. We always say that. And the capitalists say the same thing. They say, if our economy improves, if it becomes better, then you don't need separate state and provisional powers, E double plus and 3 double plus and 13 double plus. You don't need any of that. So this argument, I think, will more and more come into the foray. And people will say, listen, wait until more changes to happen. Wait until this and wait until that. And hoping during that period, some kind of energy, economical program happens and you probably make certain kind of demographical changes such a way that Tamils are not in a position to mount anything. So you are in a disadvantaged position. So this kind of changes, because he hasn't said anything about colonization, he hasn't said anything about military being their dominant forces, removing all the camps. He hasn't said anything.
Before he come and go, we talk about is a two-state, one country matter.
Nothing like that. So, but it's possible. Anything. But let's be fair and let's say that these people were talking behind the scene because they didn't want to say it publicly. Some of the people will say, oh, we know Modi would have said this to Prime Minister behind the scene and the President behind the scene. We are sure it's going to happen. If that is the case, I'm a bit skeptical because the CM, Chief Minister, Northern Chief Minister, he was more sarcastic when he was asked the question, the Modi's visit, what do you think about the time? He's asking you to wait for a few more, give us a few more time for the changes. And he said, look, we have been waiting for 67 years, few months will not make any difference. Now, that seems to be an argument. He purposely said it to minimize Modi's effect. In a way. So if you talk to the local people, Jaffna people, or East if you want, I only had a slipshot of, some snapshot idea, not many people actually notice. So you have to understand, most of these things have become media events. We put on a show, brings out a few people, plastic chairs, sit them there, make a few statements and show them a photograph.
So on our side, in the Tamil side also, they're doing the same thing?
We are doing, all of us are doing the same thing. We are doing, everybody
is talking about 13 plus and that and this also.
But nothing's going to happen because remember, I told you, people who talked about that, this and everything, and I did tell you last time before the elections that you will see soon people in Colombo, these people who are organizing themselves in a frenzy, who are here on a frenzy against for demanding that inquiry, this inquiry. I'm sure they will now buy the idea, bait them the hook, and they will land in Sri Lanka. And I heard some party has already met the president when he visited here, Sri Lankan president. The other party opposed it, and all these family matters within that contingent which was arguing for all kind of stuff. Now suddenly is in disarray. You can see that. Now why? Because intelligence services were organizing them and looking after them. Whether when we were in India, the RAW was behind it, and they were controlling your global movement. You can't do anything beyond certain point. That similarly, they have made sure when the tigers are killed, all these groups are brought under control, and everybody is told what to do and what to. So most of the groups were organized within the parliament, and they went the points. So all these things are happening. Now the pressure is on them to go there. So the Modi's visit, in a way, facilitated that part of the process.
Okay. What will happen this genocide matter? That is a UN inquiry. Now, after Modi come to Sri Lanka and went to visit the North and talking to TNA, talking to Tamils, talking in the parliament. So what is going to happen to that? India's what going to do?
This is exactly
or what they're going to bring it in?
Yes, Modi's visit is make it doubly sure international inquiry doesn't happen. That is what happens. Why? There are reasons for that. If you look at the strategy they are employing in Kashmir itself, now they are now going in partnership with PDC, with the Hurriyat conference in part of the whole thing, and they are making concessions to the so-called terrorists, so that they are taking the bait. They even released one of the guy who is supposed to be the worst person in the whole of India. Now the whole idea is to bring the whole focus into solution-based argument rather than inquiry-based arguments.
Yeah.
So the idea is, as you said before, everything will be fantastic
Yeah.
if things move on and we build more country in a country better and more
Economical
development,
and
football
life
fields
development.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Things will be all right.
Mm.
So the Modi's visit actually tells you it will be more like a local inquiry, but with an international flavor. Bring the South Africans in.
Africa.
So India will make sure,
Mm.
just as they did with the Norwegians,
Mm.
even though at that time
Mm.
LTT was telling that they brought the Norwegians in. We know now
Yes.
the Norwegians were brought in by the Indians
Mm.
in order to perpetuate certain things, which they did. And
No, we
sometimes
always say that we are discussing with the Delhi
No,
and coming to Sri
they
Lanka.
did, but the tiger propaganda at the time was that
Yes.
we are cutting India out
Yes.
and we are going with
But they
that
are
and
with
this,
the-
and eventually all the documents are proved the opposite.
Yeah.
Now they are going to openly bring the South Africans because they will say they are experts on local matters because they had what they call internal inquiry where the truth and reconciliation process happened in a way where nobody is accused and sent to prison.
Mm.
But everybody admitted their guilt and said sorry.
So
and
the inquiry is happening within Sri Lanka. If it's happening
This is what is
within
going
Sri
towards
Lanka,
at the moment, yeah.
within Sri Lanka and together with South African.
But with the
South
expertise.
African expertise. yeah?
Expertise.
So is that good for Sri Lanka?
I mean,
Especially Tamil Sinhala.
I have
bring it
been
back to
saying
them
from
or-
all the time.
Mm.
You see, war criminal is a war criminal.
Mm.
What you do with them is a second thing.
Mm.
You see, we have our own war criminals.
Mm.
For a start, when you killed a lot of LTT people, Telo people,
Yeah.
that's war criminal.
Yeah.
So it's a war crime anyway. So we had war criminals among us,
Among us.
including heroes maybe. There are people who went and killed other people for no reason. So I don't know who is what who. So we have to draw a line and say, okay, we had war criminals, but what is the real actual weight of these war criminals?
Mm.
Tamils killing Telo or LTT, Telo killing LTT, even though it's a war crime,
Mm.
but it's not ending up in genocide.
Yes.
So you are diminishing a power of a people in Sri Lanka
Mm.
by wiping out the population
Yeah.
or engendering their displacement.
Oh.
They are making sure they are gone away
Away.
to outside country or even internally displaced.
Yeah.
You made sure they went to Colombo and lived there.
Not to come back.
Not to
into
come
Sri-
back.
But this is not happening in Sri Lanka.
This is what happened in Sri Lanka. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happened to us.
Yeah, okay.
So in this process,
Yeah.
you have to separate genocide in a very strict, narrow margin, rather than saying everything is a war crime.
Mm.
So yes, I said it. Everything is a war crime,
Mm.
but then you have to understand
Mm.
where do we fit in. So the genocide actually happened. There is no doubt about that.
Okay.
But how do you handle a genocide?
Mm.
That's a question.
Mm.
By putting Godabaja or anybody else in prison
Mm.
does not change their view, or for that matter,
Mm.
changes demography of our situation. So, if anything, the war crime inquiry should go towards making them not to do it one more time. No, not resort to this idea to resolve another matter, maybe with the Muslims, maybe with the Christians, or anybody else, or even with the Sinhalese of the southern part, the Mahinda people. Maybe now they have become vulnerable because they have lost power. You know, I'm talking about southern Sinhalese, the Karawa people or whatever. So how do you deal with them? You can't go and destroy them like they did with the JVP.
Okay.
They went and killed them millions. But that is also genocide.
Yeah.
Because you are killing communities.
Communities, yeah.
So you wiped out villages.
Yeah.
So that is also war crime and genocide in many cases. So we have to make sure this inquiry is broad-based so that it is not, even it is an inquiry, internal one, but internationally enshrined. In other words, the final conclusion has to be somehow attested by some international authority. They say, okay, you have done this, but we are saying this is conclusive and we welcome this and this, and we want implementation of this in this way.
Before, I remember somewhere before, 2 times you mentioned that Southeast Asian countries,
Yes.
we need a human rights, what do you call it, convention.
We need to have a human rights the declaration of ourselves.
That's for Southeast Asia.
South Asia, yeah.
If we have one of them, similar one,
Yes.
maybe we can...
This is where we should lead to. I mean, so if I am there,
Yeah.
instead of South Africa, I will chart towards that.
Okay, tell us now what we, Tamil side, in this changes what's happening in Southeast Asia and after this, or the Modi come into Sri Lanka and dealing with, and India and Sri Lanka come back together, is look like is going that way. That we Tamils, what we should do, we have so much of hopes two state within country, separatism. Some people say 13 plus, and that is, we have so much of messed up.
Yes.
And the people are not united together. They come with any decision that we have. What we should do?
I think we should.
TNA do and we should do.
First of all, we should try to define what we always say our property, the Udamahal. That means we need to talk about what is our belongings. The belonging is not a property in the sense of material property. So we have to discuss at some point what is property means, or property within belonging means. So land is one material property. So we have to assert community-based empowerment locally. That goes for Sinhalese people, Tamil people. We have to work together so that we assert the rights over the land as well as ourselves. So these inquiries should be part of that empowering program. So in that sense, we all should work. Forget about all these people who are arguing here about president can come in or go to the protest march in airport or somewhere, BTL matter. We should go back and spend a little time within our own community to empower them in a way they can exercise rights over their things. In other words, what I'm saying is, you see, people say local democracy what we call, sometimes we call as the citizenship rights, the civil society. All these words mean something, but practically what it means when you are powerless, when you have no basis for an argument, what you give that, where you derive that power. So we must find a way to derive power for the local ordinary community.
So you're talking about devolution of power
to devolution, but very bottom. Very bottom. So, and not only devolution from an, I'm not demanding it. I'm saying we should take it.
Take it,
Take it. We should take it. We must put a program so that it is not even taken. It's just exercised. You don't take it. If when you are walking on a pavement, you are not taking the pavement. You are exercising.
We exercise ourselves and we walk towards the target.
And your pavement is yours when you are walking. Why do you want to take it home, the pavement?
Okay, that new emerging strategy in the Southeast Asian countries, what is your final word after Modi comes? And Modi is here, and we say, talking about, everybody say the Modi very well, that and this. That is missing now.
Yes.
What is your final word?
In one word, we should be more careful about our community property. In other words, the belonging, we should be more careful, and we should be more wary of the international as well as local or even regional Indian businesses. There, your belonging is going to be eroded in a way, bit by bit, by enticing you into this so-called employment program, which leaves you with nothing but no employment either in the end. That is one word.
Thank you very much, Ravi.
Thank you.
Thank you.